Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations on Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start as usual from the global space, and we see oil prices still up after it gained 3% in the previous session. Trade tensions between top oil consumers, that's the US and China, showing signs of easing, and also that announcement between the UK and the US trade deal, they call it a breakthrough trade deal, that has brought some green color to the oil market. And so we see 0.68% in the green for Brent at $63.27 a barrel. WTI also gained 0.7% at $60.33. So yesterday, U.S. Treasury Secretary talked about the deal with the UK. We have details of the deal now between the US and the UK, and also tomorrow there's the meeting between China and the US, May 10, and that's supposed to work towards resolving the trade dispute that have threatened growth in the global economy beyond crude oil. China's exports rose faster in April while imports narrowed their decline. So in another case, US President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister, of course, had that arrangement. Also, there's the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, that's OPEC Plus. They plan to increase output, which could keep pressure on oil prices. So that's coming from the oil side. There's some calm coming the way of investors and the global markets. Back here in Nigeria, well, we had that good news for a bit that Nigeria has paid off its debts, owed to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. But this is the real picture. The real picture is that the federal government of Nigeria, yes, had fully repaid, but what they have paid is the $3.4 billion loan that it received from the IMF in 2020, the period of COVID-19. That's when this help was given. So according to the IMF, the money was secured under the rapid financing instrument to cushion the impact of COVID-19 and falling oil prices. The IMF confirmed that has been settled. It was settled by April 30, 2025. However, Nigeria will continue to pay about $30 million annually in special charges, the SDR, special drawing rights, until its reserve holdings in the special drawing rights match its full allocation. So that's the true picture. It would be nice to know Nigeria is no longer owing, but there's a but right there. Now, have you ever thought of merging agriculture and tourism? Well, a group of farmers have done that, and they say this will bring more value to the farmers especially, and get consumers to appreciate what they see as the products coming from the farms even more. Moji Davids is the managing director of Extra Large Farms and Resorts, and she believes that there are some policies that government can put together to drive increased participation at the micro level.
So every time you buy one tuber of yam for 5,000 naira in the market, you can be rest assured that that tuber of yam didn't leave the farm for 5,000. There is a lot of, change of hands and everything that went into play, especially with the interlopers, before that yam became 5,000. Don't be surprised that it actually left the farm for 1,000. So if the farmer left the yam for 1,500 and is selling in the market for 5,000, how can that farmer ever be rich? So we are trying to encourage the farmers, especially the local ones who feel that nobody is hearing their voices, and we are going to be rewarding them for the labor. At least, let's celebrate this farmers' birthday. We are also bent on training minimum 10,000 people at no cost in easy and simple ways that they can practice sustainable agriculture. Things that you can start from your backyard, from your home. easy ways of farming. You know, I even want to use this opportunity to challenge our religious bodies, to challenge all school owners. You have too much of space in all these places. We can put these places to use. Once you give us the opportunity to train people within your organization, then let everybody have a farm. Who says that one day, like we have our sanitization program, I think it's on Thursday or something that we have it, who says the government cannot declare a day, maybe a Saturday, 2-3 hours every Saturday, let everybody go to farm.
VFD Group PLC, an exclusive investment firm determined to build Africa's most diverse business ecosystem, has held its 9th annual general meeting in Lagos. The meeting, which also had virtually brought together shareholders and board of directors to reflect on the group's successful 2024 performance, follows a tough financial year in 2023 and to lay the foundation for the ambitious continental growth ahead. For the 9th time, VFD Group PLC is holding its annual general meeting to have an introspection on the company's 2024 performance and projection for the year 2025 and beyond. The chairman, Mr. Olatunde Busari SAN, is present, including other top management staff. To kickstart the meeting, the company secretary reads the notice.
To consider and if thought fit, pass the following resolution as an ordinary resolution. That the remuneration of all the non-executive directors until further notice be and is hereby fixed at 127,880,000 naira only for the year ending December 31st, 2025.
The chairman declares dividends available to shareholders.
For the financial year ended December 31, 2024, the directors are recommending a dividend of 2 naira 50 kobo. For every ordinary share of 50 kobo, each to all shareholders whose names are in the company's register of members as at Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025.
Following the group's 2024 financial recovery, it now sets its sights beyond Nigeria to ensure that the current profit momentum is sustainable beyond 2025.
Our strategy going forward is more about deepening our verticals in the country and replication of those businesses that we have in Nigeria in other key African locations.
If you look at the profit after tax or profit before tax of the company, you will see that we bounce back from a loss before tax of over 700 million in 2023 to a profit before tax of over 11 billion in 2024. So that is the most striking.
And the chairman speaks further on the company's profit rebound.
We ended 2024 with a profit of about 11 billion naira. We believe that we make our shares more reachable, more affordable to new shareholders. And I will urge the investing public that they should invest in VFD Group, VFD PLC.
The year 2024 financial year had a remarkable revenue and profit growth across VFD Group PLC's business concerns, as shareholders approved a dividend payment of 2 naira 50 kobo per share, amounting to a total payout of 3.17 billion naira, with a bonus share issuance of 5 new shares for everyone held, which underscores the group's commitment to long-term shareholder value and investor confidence. Nigeria first. Well, that's the new policy we're applauding, an economic policy that's supposed to make Nigeria come first in all procurement processes, foreign goods, devices that are already being produced locally, and without a clear and justified reason that they cannot be procured from outside the country. This, of course, aligns with what President Tinubu has been saying, his objective of driving industrialization and insulating the economy from global disruptions and boosting local production in the country. Can we make it work? This is not the first. We have to remember that. We've gone through this path before, but what did we get out of it? I don't mean to sound the drum of doom, but let's just be realistic. But let's get the thoughts of the manufacturers in Nigeria. They should, gain more from this. The Director General is right here, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri. Mr. Kadri, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Great. So I've seen your reaction following this announcement, the Nigeria First policy. You're very excited about it. I must say, I think you're also very optimistic about it, but I know you haven't forgotten that we've gone down this road before, and yet we are here again celebrating the pronouncement again.
Yeah. So I think, yes, we are, because if you produce what you consume and you consume what you produce, you have a more integrated economy, you are able to benefit from the economies of scale, and you are able to retain jobs, investments, and wealth. So like you rightly said, this is not the first time we are traveling on this path, but why we are excited now is the fact that I think this policy of government is following the trend as it is in sync with previous reform agenda of government. So we have seen steps being taken to reform the tax environment, and very happy to hear that the Senate and the House have finally passed the 4 bills, so it's going to be harmonized and the President should assent. So we are improving on ease of doing business, so to say. We are passing the tax bills. It's going to create an environment of increased productivity. That is only one aspect of it. And that's not to say that there are not so many other issues, but at least these ones are being taken out. If you have the increased production, what are you going to do with it? I've always said it that to correctly determine what a manufacturer is doing is not saying that he produced. He's actually a seller. Because if he doesn't sell what he has produced will become a burden to him. He will have to hire warehouses where he will keep them, and if they have shelf life, they will expire. He will have to pay regulatory agencies to dispose of those items. So the principal thing is to sell. Now, this policy is going to follow in that trend, to say that we must patronize what produce. And government is the biggest spender in the economy. Either it's ministry, departments, and agencies, the uniformed institutions, and so many other things, government contracts. So if we have this policy and is diligently implemented, we are going to have a boost. And we have done our simulation. We're actually working on it right now to be able to work together with government to make sure it is implemented.
So why some people bring up this question is, yes, we have heard it. And as you noted, government is the biggest spender in the economy. And government is in the leading part. So what they do also motivates the followers. Do we see government, I know somebody put on social media, are you going to give away your Escalades and Lamborghini and go to Innocent, to get, do we see such practicals? Because that, I believe, is what we need. Yeah. If we're talking of local content, we've been talking about local content for years. Yeah. Do we see the government wear the clothes that are made in Abeokuta? We have those materials there. Do we see them eating what is made here instead of what has been brought into? I think that's the next step that can actually make this different from the former one. We do have the beautiful policies and all of that.
Yes, I mean, that narrative fits squarely into the perennial lack of trust of government. Government has serious trust deficit, and it's based on indiscipline on the part of government, saying what they will not do and doing what they will not say. So citizens are justified to doubt government sincerity. And this government must therefore recognize that nobody is excited about the pronouncement, so to say. Everybody will be excited about the implementation. And to answer your question directly, yes, what we like to see is not saying throw away all that you have. It's to say, going forward, this is what you need to do. It will be a delight, for instance, to see Mr. President riding in a vehicle that is assembled in Nigeria. It will be good to see 360 members of the House of Rep, 109 senators, to be able to see the CG of Customs, the Inspector General of Police, all the Army chief, all of them coming out wearing, for instance, I mean, apart from driving Nigerian auto assembled cars, wearing Adire, Ankara, and buying these textile materials from Nigerian producers. Seeing the army having their tent as tarpaulin, for instance, made by Zara Industries, it will help to send a very, very strong signal that this is the direction of government. You can imagine if the president is driving a car that is assembled in Nigeria, which minister will submit to FEC a proposal to procure vehicles, and you will see the ones that are not assembled here. And what message does this send to those who are producing? It means that whatever you produce will be bought. It means that you can increase your capacity utilization. The average capacity utilization of manufacturing sector for more than a decade has hovered around 50%. So by our calculation, this will be increased by a minimum of 56%. Because you know that there is a market. We are 250 million people in Nigeria, 230, 250 million people. We are more than a quarter of the West African sub-region. So if we have this market patronizing made in Nigeria goods, led by government, that is the biggest spender, we will have tremendous impact. So I believe that government has to intentionally make this work. And the citizens, the civil societies, the communities, the media, the organized private sector, we should ensure that it becomes a lot easier for government, because this is a fake decision. There are ministry, departments, and agencies of government that need to take a cue from this. And there should be consequence for non-compliance. I mean, the problem we had with Executive Order 003 was the fact that it was largely observed in the breach. And those who are supposed to be responsible for implementing it are themselves culprits in this matter.
No consequences.
No consequences. So there has to be a consequence. The CEO of an agency that refuses to implement it should be sanctioned. I'm sure the person who is going to take over from him will think twice and not to do the same. And I believe that it's our responsibility to help government to cure ourselves of this addiction, which, for instance, is completely negative. All that Trump is doing now that everybody is talking about is putting America first. So this is an excellent response from the government to put Nigeria first. And I think the impact is going to be instant. New investments in manufacturing, expansion of current capacities. And what that translates to, more jobs, more tax paid to government, value chain development, because when you produce, you have wholesale, you have retail, you have logistics, and so on, and you employ more people. They'll be able to produce. You have more people and incentivized to produce the raw materials that are required. We reduce our request for forex to bring in foreign goods, and our economy grows.
And Naira will get more strength.
Yes.
But do we have the production capacity to meet up? I mean, you talked about the population of Nigeria. I know Nigerians, when we go for something, everybody goes for it. Right. Do we have the production capacity?
Okay, like I said, currently we produce at half of our capacity. And the reason is because we can't sell. I don't want us to go into the issue of whether we are able to export what we produce, because exporting from Nigeria is also a nightmare. That's a story for another day. But the fact is that we are already producing, plus the one we manage to export, only about 50–55%. So if we have the market, we can scale to 100 without doing anything, just getting more raw materials to produce. So we have the capacity to deliver. And it will incentivize investment in other areas, which will help government's policy of diversification. There are a number of sectors. I was discussing with my colleagues only yesterday. Our electrical and electronic subgroup is virtually disappearing because of the huge influx of those materials from China and other countries, and the incapacity of the companies that we have to compete and they are fizzled out. If we increase local patronage, those people will come back to life. We have lost about 60% of our members in the Northeast due to this insurgency and the rest. But we are having some improvement, even though recently we have some setback. They will be incentivized to come. But if when you were producing, it was only at 20, 30, 40%, why take the risk to even come back when peace is being established? So it is actually a confidence-building process that you have a market. Because dangerous as people say Nigeria is, we still have foreign investors coming into the country. Everybody will follow the money. Everybody will follow the market. So if we are able to intentionally and diligently implement it, we are going to have a trickle-down effect that will boomerang around all the economy, and we'll have a lot of success. So I do not fear our capacity to meet the growing demand that will come from the faithful implementation of this policy.
What about quality? A lot of Nigerians say they fear quality. Once they say Nigerian-made products, they're scared that it may not be of top quality.
Yes. So I'm actually a bit surprised about that when I hear, and I never fail to tell them. I never, for instance, use any foreign product that has a Nigerian substitute. I don't. And I'm still alive. So I think what people should fear is actually imported goods. We have NAFDAC, we have SON, we have agencies of government that scrupulously scrutinize our products. Maybe if those people who are saying Nigerian products are not okay, maybe they are buying products that are made by people who operate in the fringe, and they have them all over the world. So, for instance, paint. Some people say if you buy made Nigerian paint, it doesn't last. Where was the paint produced? Was it produced under the bridge somewhere, or in one corner where they just mix, or you go or you patronize a product that has been certified? I have 2,500 members. All of us make quality products. Otherwise, you'll be sanctioned. So I don't know where the story of this thing should come from. And by the way, customs day in, day out, they seize Nigerian products that are coming in from outside, supposed Nigerian products that are coming in from outside of the country, faked, counterfeited. So I believe that we needed to be patriotic, we needed to be fair to the average Nigerian manufacturer who, in spite of all odds, are still able to make those products. And we should patronize them. Government agencies have a lot of roles to play here. The BPE, for instance, must work on the margin of preference, because another thing that they say is that our products are more expensive. Why will it not be more expensive when what foreign countries are doing is simply to dump? And the strategy is an old one that has always worked. You underprice the imports, you put it in the market, it kills the existing domestic market. When they are dead and they can't rise again, you just increase your prices, you take off the market.
I thought it was the overhead costs that was making the Nigerian-made products more expensive.
Yes, so part of it, but it's intentional underpricing, smuggling, dumping. There is no strategy that any business can introduce that will make you to compete against these two. So, for instance, you have a glut. A country is producing more than it should. They decide to say, okay, we have covered our cost. Let's look for an area where we can dump it. If by any chance they look towards Africa, Nigeria is first choice. So you come and you dump those products. There is no way anybody who is producing in Nigeria, borrowing at 30%, with struggling with 250% increase in electricity tariff, suffering all sorts of taxes, non-state actors, state actors, federal, local, and so on, you'll be able to compete with that? No, it's a killer. So I believe that our capacity as a domestic economy is to be intentional each way. So to get the agency of government, for instance, that is supposed to implement this, and we should hang it on one agency.
So the tax reform should deal with a huge part of that, I guess.
Of course. I mean, the prayer is that nothing sabotages this tax reform. And that's why, I mean, yesterday, I really had a lot of thumping with my friends. I'm so excited that we are getting to the end of the road. This journey started 7 months ago. It's already too long. We should wind it up, pass all this.
And I think implementation
taxes.
will start next month or so.
It should start yesterday. It should start yesterday.
Anyway, we wish the tax reforms, you know, that it will really bring, as you said, there will be no compromise, especially in the implementation. And Nigeria First is exciting for all of us, trust me, because when we see the Naira at the level it is, it's not good for anyone. But thank you so much, Director General of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadri, for your time.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Same here. Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we attempted to have that cocoa conversation 2 days ago. We weren't able to. I do hope we can do it today with the president of the association. That's after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Well, the Federal Executive Council has approved a draft bill for the Cocoa Management Board, NCMB, and it's aimed at regulating the cocoa subsector for economic development in the country. The approval, which was announced by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Public Communication, Mr. Sunday Dare, will empower the NCMB to enhance Nigeria's opportunities in the global cocoa market and improve prosperity of cocoa farmers in the country. Let's talk to the cocoa farmers now and see what they think about this. It's still at the budding stage. It's just a bill, and it hasn't even started a major process to make it a law, make it come to pass. But let's speak to the president of the National Cocoa Association, Mr. Bolaniwa Mufutao. Mr. Mufutao, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, madam.
Great.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Good to have you. So, hearing about this intention to have the cocoa board, what are your expectations or expectation of your association?
Thank you. Let me go from the memory lane. In 1987, Cocoa Marketing Board was scrapped for one obvious reason of corruption, when the farmers started cutting down the cocoa tree in the farm, which nosedive from 300,000 tons to 96,000 tons. And that's one of the reasons why the military government then scrapped the entire marketing board. But by scrapping that marketing board, they exposed the whole business to all Dick and Harry, doing whatever they like. Nobody's mindful of quality, no better production and everything. And that's the reason why this National Cocoa Management Committee was set up by the Agric Director, Minister then, Sanono, which were inaugurated at least to have a body that will be able to monitor the acts of cocoa farmers. Now that's the reason why we put this thing forward to the presidency for approval, and which they have given the executive order to give to the National Assembly for bill. It's a very good welcome development because now the government has already, they have 10 years cocoa development plan. For the 2018 they're supposed to start, it has not taken off. It's not a problem in this country. The problem in this country is not about a policy, but it's about of having the will to follow it to the letter, to ensure that what they have pronounced are actually implemented. These are the problem we're having in our own country. Every good policy, until when we start implementing it before we can say it's a welcome development.
Mr. Muftal, so you talked about the fact that the first board was scrapped because of corruption. Would you say that the element of corruption can now be, we can confidently say it is out of the way now that we want to have another one?
What we are having now is not marketing. Marketing is removed out of the business entirely. It's only the technical aspect to monitor the quality, to monitor the activity of the stakeholders to ensure that the Ministry of Agrics are doing what it's supposed to do by increasing the production of cocoa to be able to meet the international standard, planting the high hybrid street of cocoa, and to even ensure that we are able to surpass what Ivory Coast of Ghana are producing, because it has to be properly coordinated. Each state must know their target and what to produce. But marketing is entirely still remain intact in the hand of exporters.
What would you say, Mr. Muftal, should be major ingredients now that we want to start this first journey of having another cocoa board? What should be considered? What should be the consideration? How should it be structured to make it most efficient for the targets?
I think the most way and the best way to do, one, is to ensure that this thing is free of politicizing. Government should remove politics out of it. They should call the people actually involved in this trade to ensure that they do the right thing. Two, every organization that's involved that's going to involve in this marketing in this board should be having their own self-financing. Government should not involve in giving money. It should not be another jamboree. As long as the government starts introducing giving money, giving allocation, the thing will not get the result we are expecting to get. If you want to serve your nation, you are representing an organization. For instance, as a CAN member, if I'm going to be, I'm not saying I will be, if I'm going to be in that board, my organization should be able to fund me, because everybody should see it as a service for this nation. Not every government should not start making unnecessary allocation. When the money start coming in, people will misbehave, because you know Nigeria, even days when money was not even like this, corruption was high. Talk less of now, where everybody believe that I must grab. So each committee, each member that's going to be involved should be self-financing by their organization, whoever that is involved. If you are from the Ministry of Agri, should be responsible for your maintenance. If you are from Ministry of Industry, the Ministry of Trade and Investment should be responsible for your money.
Very interesting, Mr. Muftal, and I do hope that perhaps that could be considered, because sometimes we do say that because it seems like serving in government in Nigeria, it's very, very incentivized. That's why we see lack of focus on the major thing. But what aspects? So we talk about production of this cocoa. Of course, Nigeria has a lot of potential. We're not meeting up with that. And then we also talk about adding value. So how do you think this should be captured, while creating this board, so that these two core areas are given attention and we see progress?
Well, one of the major areas is to ensure that CRIN, Cocoa Research Institute, should be fully funded, to ensure that they are doing their core mandates. Ministry of Agri, too, which is major umbrella, should ensure that this cocoa seedling hybrid one that's been produced by CRIN should go around all the cocoa producing states, which are about 16, 17 states that is producing cocoa in Nigeria. And each state should be given a target. If Ondo states presently are producing 88,000 tons out of the 300 we are producing now, Ondo has a potential of producing up to 200,000 tons. Edo can also equally do like 100,000 tons. Cross River can do up to 150,000 tons. By the time we do analysis of projection and backing it up with necessary backup for all these states, and the state governors should be relevant, should be show the potentials of ready to participate in this thing. Because all these things, because the core mandate of all these ministers of agri in this country, they have not been able to live to their expectation. Most of the things we are doing in this country is purely on lip service. People are not ready to do the work they are being employed for. Everybody is looking for an opportunity, and that cannot solve our problem. Nigeria we are now, everybody, all hands must be on deck now to face this country, to do whatever we have to do to bring Nigeria. What cocoa alone can give you 50% of your 1 trillion economy you are talking of, if it's actually annexed. Sesame seed will equally give you the same thing, and other agricultural products. But we just need to segment, structuralize everything, and to ensure that the right people are there to do what we are required. It's not a rocket science. It is what we can do. But all harm must be on that, and the government must be very sincere to do what they're supposed to do.
I was wondering, I know we've been talking about the federal arm since. What about the subnationals? Does the association work with state governments? Are they, very responsive to the things that you need to, explore some of these untapped potentials in our cocoa?
Yes, like for now, Ondo State, they are living up to expectation. Cross River, they are living up to expectation, because the conference we had about, which we just concluded yesterday, the governor was there. In fact, it's also waiting for the communique that we concluded on the meeting for them to implement. And we are going to send it to both the federal and all the state cocoa producing states. What can increase our production, and this is what we're supposed to do. Not that they are not ready to key in, but people need to be hammering into their hair, because a lot of diversion is too much within our government system.
Yeah, a lot of
a lot of diversion is too much. In Ghana, that all these things are working. The only problem of Ghana is the marketing board. But for technical aspects, managing good quality, everything, they were doing this very excellently. Because like in Nigeria today, some unscrupulous people adding some adulterated product inside the cocoa, and this thing is going to affecting Nigerian image. That's one of the reasons why we are agitating for this board, so that whoever that is caught, even if it is 5 years imprisonment alone given to them, this thing all these activities will stop. And Nigeria, because we have the best aroma cocoa, but when you start adding additive bad things into the cocoa, it will spoil whatever aroma you have.
But isn't that the responsibility of the association to ensure that members and players in the sector and the subsector actually adhere, to the right practices?
It is responsibility of our member, but one thing is that it is the government that is still grading the cocoa, the quality of cocoa. But virtually all the state now, the so-called graders, those farm people that are supposed to be there, they are the old one they have retired. Then they are not recruiting another people to replace these people. And as I was telling you, human being what they are, everybody wants to make more money. And even like this last year, we caught a whole trailer load of hydrotrans in Ondo State. Pursuing them, taking it to the Ministry of Agri. Eventually, in fact, we fought the case to the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment and Nigerian Export Promotion Council. At the end of the day, they were taken to the court. The guy was released by the government. If you caught somebody and is being released, how do you want the association, the group, to be able to punish anybody? So that's why we need a government. There should be a sanction for whoever that misbehaves. All we just need to do in this country, just take 10 or 5 people, a scapegoat. Everybody will run away from doing bad things. Nigeria likes enjoyment. They don't want to be disturbed. But the moment everybody can do whatever they like without being punished, the country can never move forward.
So, well, I do hope that perhaps the board can look at some of this to ensure that those who were punished or those who were caught are punished, and it will be a deterrent to, more bad doing. Thank you so much, President of National Cocoa Association, Mr. Bolarinwa Mufutao, for your time.
Okay, thank you. God bless you.
Bless you too. And talking about the forum that Mr. Mufutao talked about, they had a forum recently in Ondo State. The Ondo State governor was there himself and shared some of the support that he has it has and intends to continue giving to the Cocoa Association. The International Culture and Event Center in Akure, the Ondo State capital, is the venue for the National Cocoa Stakeholders Workshop and Excellency Award. The theme, deforestation-free cocoa production and improved trade practices through adoption of sustainable national traceability system, means that essentials of production and trade will be covered.
The association has faced funding constraints that have made it difficult to meet certain obligations. In light of this, the National Council has approved the following strategy measures to strengthen our financial base. The 300 naira per ton levy on all cocoa loaders from farm gates throughout Nigeria. We revise the membership structure with registration now as from 500,000 and annual subscription of 1 million depending on the membership category.
The governor of the state, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, is working closely with the association after assessing the economic benefits of cocoa to the state. He shares his support.
Provision of improved seedlings and fertilizers free of charge to farmers to enhance yield and quality. And this we will continue to do from time to time. Comprehensive training and capacity building programs for select farmers to adopt best practice.
At the end of the two-day workshop, it's expected that more ideas, synergies, and policies would have been formed towards improving the quality and quantity of cocoa production in the country. Well, that's from the cocoa commodities segment. But that story that Mr. Kadri referred to about the tax reforms making headways at this time, my colleague Kumbi Aboluade put together the journey of this tax reform. I just thought we should bring that to you before we head to the global space.
It was a day lawmakers in the upper chamber set aside for the completion of the consideration of the final two tax reform bills submitted by President Tinubu in October 2024.
Clause by clause consideration.
After several checks and observations, the final two bills, comprising the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill and the Nigerian Tax Bill 2025, were passed.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal certain acts on taxation and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation and enact the Nigerian Tax Bill to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments, and for later matters 2025, third reading taken and passed.
Pleased with the outcome, the Senate leader assures of more and takes a swipe at critics.
For those who continue
Well, that was not the report that I was asking for. That was actually when the Senate spoke about it. And of course, we had two. Then they had two of the reforms. That's just the Senate, when they had two parts of the reforms, that was passed and discussed by the senators. But we do have a more elaborate one. Perhaps you see that on our main news. Later on today. Apologies for that. I would have really loved for you to see or get the information, the journey, of when the tax reform started and the different hitches that we've had. We've discussed most of them here on the program, from the northern leaders, governors were not very comfortable with some parts, the hearing, and then some of those parts were adjusted, the VAT, the sharing formula for the different parts, but at 11 o'clock, I believe you would be able to get that report. Apologies, we couldn't get that. Now let's head to the global space now and see what's happening. We start from where the United States announcing a breakthrough deal, is what they call it, with the United Kingdom that would create an aluminium and steel trading zone and secure the pharmaceutical supply chain. The deal affirms that the reciprocity and fairness is a vital principle of international trade and increases access for U.S. agricultural products U.S. President Donald Trump said that though he added that the final details were still being written up. The deal, the first one struck by the U.S. since Trump imposed his tariffs, is also set to strip back paperwork for British companies looking to export to the United States. The president said that the agreement would lead to more beef and ethanol exports to the UK, which would also streamline the processing of U.S. goods through customs. The White House said that the deal will bring in $6 billion in external revenue from its 10% tariffs, which will stay in place, but that it would also bring in $5 billion in new export opportunities. The UK agreed to lower its tariffs to 1.8% from 5.1% and provide greater access to U.S. goods. And China-based shipping agents have resumed buying container space for goods headed for the United States after a series of U.S. tariff-induced cancellations as Beijing and Washington head for trade talks in Switzerland. Trade between the world's two largest economies has slumped since U.S. President Donald Trump imposed 145% tariffs on China-made goods. That happened in April 10, a move which prompted China to impose levies of 125% on U.S.-made products. The U.S. tariffs, which affect an estimated 80% of goods shipped from China to the U.S., prompted sailings from China to the U.S. to drop by 60% in April, and this is according to a logistics and freight forwarding broker. Customers from logistics operator have cancelled 30% of shipment from China. That was for last month. Since late April, however, traders have stepped up buying of shipping capacity, locking in space from midway, according to two China-based executives with freight forwarding firms. And they say that with the U.S. and China adopting more conciliatory language on trade since late April, officials due to begin talks in Geneva tomorrow, Saturday, exporters are hopeful that the two countries will soon move to lower tariffs. Still in China, exports surged in April on the back of a jump in shipments to Southeast Asian countries, offsetting a sharp drop in outbound goods to the U.S. As prohibitive tariffs kicked in, export jumped 8.1 last month in the U.S. dollar terms with a year earlier. This according to data released by Customs Authority, sharply beating a poll that estimated a 1.9% rise. Imports slumped by 0.2% in April from a year earlier, compared with expectations of about 5.9% drop. China's shipment to the U.S. plunged over 21% in April year-on-year, while imports dropped nearly 14%, according to Chinese customs data. And Chinese U.S.-bound shipments had risen 9.1% in March as exporters rushed to front-load orders ahead of that tariff hike. In the first 4 months this year, China's export to the U.S. dropped 2.5%, while imports fell 4.7% from a year earlier. The surge in overall export could partially be transshipment through third countries and contracts that were signed before the tariffs were introduced. This according to the president and chief economist at Pinpoint Asset Management. And still in China, soybean imports plunged to a 10-year low in April as prolonged customs clearance delays and late Brazilian shipment caused by harvest slowdowns and logistics issues disrupted the usual flow of cargoes. Total imports from the month reached 6.08 million metric tons, and that's down 29.1% from the same period last year, marking the lowest level since 2015. According to calculations using the customs data. Now, the customs delays have severely strained China's oilseed processing sector from April through early May, tightening soybean supplies for its vast livestock industry. Soybean cargoes now take 20 to 25 days to move from ports to crushing plants, and that's up from the usual 7 to 10 days, according to traders. And away from China, we go to Indonesia, where there are plans to change the source of some of its fuel imports from Singapore to the U.S. And that's part of negotiations over steep tariffs. This was disclosed by its energy minister. The U.S. has imposed 32% tariff on Indonesian goods. But like other countries, implementation has been paused until July to make room for negotiations. Minister Balil Ladahalia said that the change of some fuel imports away from Singapore would happen gradually. Indonesia could shift as much as 60% of its total fuel imports from Singapore to the U.S. in the early stages. Increasing fuel import from the United States is part of a wider proposal that Indonesia has made to Washington to address the tariffs. The government has said that it wants to increase U.S. energy import by about $10 billion, which also includes buying U.S. fuel, crude oil, and liquefied petroleum gas. According to the minister, he says it's part of all of this is part of the negotiation, and Indonesia wants to import 10 times more U.S. crude than what it's doing now. About 4% of its crude imports are from the United States. And growing worries of war between India and Pakistan led foreign banks and primary dealerships to offload Indian government bonds worth about 20 of their currency, according to data by Clearing Corporation of India Limited. The selling also drove the yields on 10-year benchmark government bond up by 6 basis points. It's now at 6.4%. That's the highest closing level since April 15. Mutual funds also sold the government bonds worth 51 of that, while public and private sector banks bought gilts worth about 16,000. And meanwhile, the Indian rupee ended at 85.72 to the dollar, more than 1% lower than the dollar. And then the Indian government also said that armed forces are targeting air defense radars and systems in Pakistan on Thursday morning, while Pakistan's military said it had shot down 25 Indian drones. And this has come after the Indian government announced that Indian armed forces early on Wednesday launched operation in Sindor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, and Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In Hungary, inflation rose 4.2% in April as steady energy prices and increased demand for services stacked on the country's economic path, and according to data from Hungary's Central Statistics Office. It paints a mixed picture of inflationary pressures and stability. Key factors include 5.4% increase in food prices, 6.3% increase in alcohol and tobacco costs. Meanwhile, energy prices slightly fell, 0.7%, offering some relief to consumers. On a monthly basis, food prices dropped by 1.3%, showing a stable energy sector. The durable goods category has shifted from decline to stability, hinting at gradual economic stabilization. The service sector persistently grows and highlights potential areas for policy focus, aiming to keep Hungary on a moderate inflation path. Well, that's it from Global News and from the program this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Morning. I'm back again in a couple of hours. That's 1 p.m. for Business Incorporated, and I'll be serving you updates from the world of business. I'm Minnie John McWell. I'll talk to you later.